So Shannon, over to you. What first drew you to the character Sharon?
Well, coming onto this project, I'd previously worked with Alex doing makeup on one of his films.
Oh, right.
So he had asked me if I was interested in doing some makeup and a really small acting position in this film.
You became the lead.
Yes. So for the Mel's launch party, I came here and the lead had just pulled out.
Mm-hmm.
So I spoke to Mel for a very short amount of time, and then she asked me if I wanted to play that character. I said, you don't know what I'm like. I might be a huge dud. So Vivian, who plays Gander, she said, a dud is better than no dud. So I was like, okay. And then Mel...
Gotta take a chance.
Yeah. So Mel talked to me about the character. She showed me everything she'd done. It was really, really impressive. So I read through the script, and within the day I got back and said, yes, I'll do it.
Had you listened to any of the podcasts previously? So you came in totally fresh?
Yeah.
And Sakti, tell me about your character, Alex.
We're both feisty. My personal life, I have 2 kids,
mm-hmm.
2 dogs, husband and everything.
Yeah.
And Alex doesn't have any of that.
So this is a question for both of you. It's really about role preparation. So how did you prepare for the role? Sakti, if I could start with you.
Sure. I was told by Mel, the character is very similar to Bruce Willis, Die Hard kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that kind of fitted in. I was like, oh, yeah, I could do that.
And a bit of a badass.
Very badass.
Yeah.
That was fun to play.
Yeah, cool.
Well, I like to be like that.
Yeah,
I'm actually the bad mom at home. As in, the kids say, you're so not nice. I'm like, well, that's what you get for being naughty.
Yeah.
So in that way, maybe we have similarity.
Shannon, how about you? Did you do any specific research or training?
Well, when I was younger, I've done a little bit of acting training.
Mm-hmm.
But for this character in particular, I really went to Mel's website and podcast.
Yeah, okay.
So I just read through all the attributes about the character.
Yeah.
I think I listened to only maybe one podcast. I didn't have Wi-Fi for like a very long time.
Yeah.
So I tried to take that on board.
And you got the graphical representations of the characters as well.
And she did explain the character to me and kind of what she wanted from the character. I think I'm similar to the character because I'm very socially awkward, and she's supposed to be that.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think I'm more of serious character as opposed to Alex.
And as filming progressed, did you absorb more of the character as time progressed?
It just became its own little thing. And then we found our little balance.
Found your groove.
Yeah, working together. It was nice.
Yeah.
But I do enjoy your character a lot.
And Sakti, how did your understanding of the character evolve during filming?
First time when I shot, it was just me. And then I met Shannon because she came on board later on. I think that's when I started feeling more comfortable having a sidekick, because we, as the characters, they met at a all-girls school because they were both orphans and so on. So because
you did a
then
lot
I
of
could
filming
play
on your
off
own
it.
first?
Yeah, first. I think it was like a month or something.
Okay.
And it was just feeling a bit strange. So
I
was trying to figure out the character.
Bounce off.
And then the only thing I had, behind was, a bit like Bruce Willis, Die Hard, that kind of strong, energetic, feisty, rough, aggressive kind of character. But then when she came along, she clicked and the characters became, playful together.
Yeah, right. And how about you, Shannon? Or how did your understanding of the character evolve?
I found we were able to bounce our characters off each other, especially towards the getting into it.
Yeah. So as things developed, the filming was quite extensive over 2 years.
Yeah.
So you would have got to know each other pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah, we sure did.
During that time. Yeah. And things became easier with the characters over time. Did you find that?
So it's more like, she's my little baby sister kind of, and I had to protect her and look after her.
Yeah.
That was my kind of...
Well, you're the badass as well.
Yeah. And then also I think with characters like she's my little baby sister.
There you go.
I'm going to take care of her.
Yeah, because she's always getting into trouble and then I have to, get her out of it. That was your character. Yeah.
Cool. What was the most challenging scene?
Probably just when we first started, getting used to having the camera straight in my face. So if I was with, she's kind of like my support blanket. If I was with her, I was good.
You're good.
But then
yeah.
as soon as it was the time right at the beginning for the camera to be right on me, I just feel like, oh crap.
Yeah.
And there's like, it's very intimate.
Yeah.
And
I
hadn't been
it's a very small set.
Yes. And I hadn't been used to that for a while.
Yeah.
Probably haven't had a camera in my face like that since 2019.
Right. And was it your first experience both using a green screen to that extent?
So it's you're creating everything in front of you. You need to know sort of like what's visually in front of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You definitely need that storyboard if you're going to film on a green screen.
Yeah.
Was there one particular scene that you really, really found challenging? You probably have different answers. It's not necessarily going to be the same scene, but is there anything that you can recall? You mentioned, camera straight in front of your face, which is pretty challenging.
I would say probably when we were shooting outside, we needed a bit of a distance to do some running scenes.
Yeah.
So we ended up going outside on the driveway.
That's here. Okay.
And, bird noise, airplanes, the wind, the sun. And then we had to run, and basically we were running on the green screen. So then you're worried about slipping.
Right.
So then you're not exactly running like a normal person would. You're
doing the Running Man.
Yeah, well, kind of, but you're more running not to slip.
Right.
Not ready to slip, because I had my hands like this. I'm like, I wouldn't really run like that. But that was to, have my balance in, not slip around. Yeah. So that was probably one of the difficult ones for me, because I was running a lot. I don't know. What about you?
I also, outside was really interesting because the sun is so in your eyes all the time. So both Sakti and I at some points we were just trying to keep our eyes open like this and
yeah, because
maintain continuity.
Because the whole time we were working in the studio,
of course,
just artificial light where we can still look at each other. We weren't squinting or worried about the sunlight.
And I was running in heels, which I decided
I know that's challenging. I totally understand.
I had to do it though. But trying to stop suddenly in high heels.
Yeah, that you won't see at all in the final cut. But for us, it's just like, wow, that was
so running
challenge.
in heels, difficult.
Yes.
Bright lights, sun makes sense. But there's also a lot of other people, a lot of extras. And how did everyone build a chemistry?
Well, most of the time it would be on the day where we meet the character
you'd be like,
and
hi,
the person.
hi.
And we'll have a quick 2-minute chat.
Yeah.
And then, no, they were all very lovely, and they were pretty easygoing to be, acting with. And they wanted to get the job done really well, as we did.
All of the actors that we worked with were really supportive of each other, patient with each other. Some of us, because it's Brisbane, we all kind of know each other. Yeah.
Can you share your most memorable?
No, it was all nice experience. Even if there was a challenging one, it turned out good. It's all learning curve, and this was my first speaking role, so the whole thing was memorable for me.
One might be thinking about the fight scene.
That was pretty intense. Because I haven't done a fight scene before, but I learned a lot from him.
So it's all choreographed.
Yes. So we had to do it a few times before, probably a week before. And then on the day we rehearsed it again a few times. Mm-hmm. Then we shot it, but I don't really know how to explain it. But
it's like a dance.
It was exactly. It's like a dance. You have to remember it. And then the other person does their thing. You do your thing.
Were you both involved in a fight scene there, Shannon? Did you have?
Yeah. I really.
Did you also?
It. I'm a very physical person.
Yeah. So you enjoyed that bit.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
No, it was good.
How did the director, if we talk about Mel and Alex, guide your performances?
They both helped a lot in everything. As we said, everything was done behind green screen. So I had no idea where I was.
They have to guide you.
And so my question was always, what's behind me? Mm-hmm. Okay, Shannon's there. Who am I talking to? Where's my eye line? What I need to do, where I have to be, directing me.
So a lot to do with how to place you in the scene.
Yes, because
so
they
that you could actually
visually
act.
know, they can see it.
Yeah.
As for talking about, my personal experience, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Besides, my character was there. She was getting, emotionally feeling like this, that, talking to Shannon. But then what's around us?
Yeah, and definitely critical if you've both not done a lot of green screen work.
And they
Totally.
were very prepared with like the storyboards
Yeah.
and everything like that. So when we came into it, they had a good idea of.
Did anything unexpected happen during filming that influenced your performance?
Puppy
Yeah.
peeing on our green screen floor, and then we'd have a dark patch there.
Yep.
Like, okay,
Yeah.
what do we do with that?
Yeah, okay. Have to work around certain extras
Yes.
behaving badly.
Yeah.
What did this project teach you?
Mainly working behind a green screen. I have been on film sets before, but there's lots of extras around you, so you don't have to worry about it. But here it was just two of us and a big green screen everywhere.
And having to create the scene in your own mind.
Creating the scene. But the whole experience was great. I mean, at the beginning, I didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
And then during it was a bit of a workout. And then at the end, you're like, that was not bad. That wasn't as bad as I thought it would be or difficult. Yeah. But now it's just a good memory.
It taught me how to learn lines on the fly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because especially if things had to be changed last minute or something like that, it taught me how to speak up about things that I needed to do the action or the scene or something like that. Yeah. So if I needed help from Sakti with learning lines or something like that, she was always there. I think towards at the beginning of it, I was like, because it was such a in the moment thing to agree to, that I was like very nervous. But by the end of it, I do feel that I built confidence.
Yeah.
With that.
Well, you did mention that you were somewhat socially awkward, which is a difficult thing then to go into doing a whole feature film.
Yeah.
Talking to a green screen.
Yeah.
With cameras in your face.
Yeah. But still, I highly enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was so much fun. I love creating in any form.
This is a question for both of you as well. If you could revisit one moment, would you change anything?
Yeah.
Moment or scene?
My accent was terrible, like in my opinion. After we shot it, we had to do the audio.
Right. Yes, you had to redo the ADR.
And my character has a US accent.
Yeah,
well, actually, we both do because we're both from LA.
I thought you did great with your accents, personally.
Yeah, I would say my accent. Sorry about my accent.
Okay. Yeah, it sounded convincing to me.
No, thank you.
But you had to redo them all like on just on mic, right? Like,
That's
and then
right.
It was overdubbed, right? So you had a second go at it.
Did
that make it easier, or was it good to have a second go?
No, it was good to have a second go because then you could clear up certain things that didn't kind of work out whilst you were filming.
Yeah.
But then you can focus or hone in on just the accent or the intonations of, well, you couldn't really change it because you had to
be the same, right?
With the lips and that.
Yeah.
So
challenging. And Shannon, would you change anything?
Well, you can't change anything.
You can't.
No.
But would you?
I feel like if we were to redo that again in a short amount of time, I think, we would obviously improve a lot.
Yeah, definitely.
But it has taught me a lot going into things in the future. Things that
it was a long acting class.
It was
in the end.
Yeah,
right.
Very grateful. Yeah,
very long acting class. Very long acting class. So, how do you feel about the next project?
Well, good because I've picked up a lot of skills.
Yeah. So, Sakti, for you, it would be the accent.
Definitely the accent. That would just make the character a bit more stronger, I think. Maybe work out on my muscles.
Yeah. So this is a question for both of you. What was the most challenging scene?
Well, mine was definitely probably the action fight scene. Yeah. But for you, I think it was all those technical
my character had a lot of...
And they were probably made up by the directors
Yeah. One of the lines was Vespertilianidae, which is
brilliant.
some type of bat.
We Googled it.
So we had to figure out
how to say that. So could you just say that again?
I can only say it in an American accent, but my American. Vespertilianidae.
It's very good.
Yeah, so hopefully I said it properly.
It sounded great. What does it mean?
It's a type of bat.
Okay.
We were doing a bat scene.
Yeah.
And we didn't have a line or something. And we're like, you know what? Because your character is intelligent. We had to Google the name for a bat because that would have made more sense for her to say a scientific name for a bat.
Yeah. So scientific names, there was probably also technical names for certain things in spaceships.
There were some things where I think I drove Mel crazy because I couldn't get the word out. And one of them was, look at this, it's an Tizir Ashpool setup. And I just couldn't get that out. And I had to, I think, say it very fast in order to get it out because it's so foreign.
Yeah.
And I found when I learned lines on my own, I decided how they sounded.
Yeah.
That wasn't actually how they sounded.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And then trying to do that also with like an American accent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
and in 5 minutes when you just turn up on the day. Yeah.
Yeah. And another one was the area was called the Ben. Oh, it's hard to say.
That's hard, right?
It's Benkeben.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had to say that 100 times.
Yeah. And then Mel would let me know how it was said, but she has a British accent.
Yeah.
So
that didn't help.
So you're taking it from British accent to American accent. Trying to do the British accent.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be challenging. And I guess there's a lot of technical terms in the film being a science fiction.
Yeah, she had to explain a few things to us.
Right, because technobabble is key to a science fiction film. You've got to have that. So
yeah.
No, I just think accents are quite tricky, actually.
They are very tricky.
To like nail them
because
for an extended
there's
period of time.
also different dialects of American because I was kind of going, at the beginning I was going Southern.
Yeah.
And then you have the Texas or the country.
The drawl.
So you got Eastwood kind of style.
Yeah. And you can't waver. You've got to keep continuity.
And ours is supposed to be LA.
Yeah. Did you practice? Oh, okay. Yes. An LA kind of.
Yeah. I YouTubed people from LA.
Oh my God, it's so fabulous.
But
you couldn't do that one.
But I didn't even have accent like that. And then half the time when I was saying something, I'm like, that's so Australian.
Yeah.
That doesn't work.
Yeah. And when we both figured out, we were like, oh, we need to do, I think the first day we ever did, we both did Australian accents.
Yes.
And then we were like, oh, these characters are American. We have to do American accents.
Yeah.
Sakti and I think, met up half an hour.
So you decided to change to American, or was that a direction?
No, it was already written. They had their own characters. Some were Australian.
One was Russian.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the Russian.
But you had to keep that accent continuity for the whole film. You couldn't then, as you say, like waver into a Clint Eastwood vibe or something like that. You had to stick with
But I think
LA.
we still did. Well, I did.
Yeah.
Backwards, forwards to Australian. You know, some words, I'm like, there's no R. I can't emphasize the R's to sound like American. Now it sounds like Australian.
It's all about the R's.
Yeah. A lot of things we learnt on this film.
What were some of the other things?
Well, besides the words,
accents, the technobabbles, the green screen.
For me,
I was really bad at shooting the gun.
Oh, okay.
I was really bad.
Yeah. Who made the props? It was
Mel.
She bought the guns.
Yeah.
They were toy guns.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we look cool only because of the editing.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
the final effect.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
You could just say we're just fabulous. Nothing to do with the editing.
A lot of work went into the editing, so that's big thanks to Mel and Alex.
Okay. Well, congratulations both on your first feature film.
Thank you.
And that's fantastic. Looking forward to seeing Mirror Maze in a couple of weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Alex, Mel. Thanks very much for joining me today to talk about your new feature film, Mirror Maze. It's exciting to be here. Tell us what inspired you to tell this story?
Well, I suppose I should take this one because it's my fault, really. About 4 or 5 years ago, I started a podcast called Angel and May about these two detectives, and that had been going 4 and a bit years. And we had defined the whole universe, load of characters. We had all these stories. And I had no idea that I was going to get involved in making a movie. And then just by chance, one of the actors in the series was working on a movie that Alex was working on. That was Luke, right? And you were having some issues with the sound on your movie. So he said to me, could I help? So I said, okay, yeah. So that's how I got to know Alex. And I worked on one of his movies, doing the sound on that movie. And, while we were doing that, I was saying, I've got all this stuff. And I was showing him the 3D models I'd made for this website. And it sort of dawned on me fairly slowly as, actually, we're kind of positioned to potentially make some sort of movie. And was it you who said, well, we could green screen it or something? And
yeah, you sent me an email mentioning that we could do the film. And I said, yeah, we could. We will need a green screen.
We could, but it'd be very painful.
I knew it was going to be really challenging, and it would be really different to anything that I've done in the past. But I thought we should give it a go.
Yeah, I think, and we both thought it would be a really good learning exercise, like the whole green screen thing. I think the first thing that really helped me was that I had quite a lot of project management experience, and I thought, this is a big issue, like a big problem. We've got to make all these shots. We've got to figure out what we're doing. And so I thought, look, naturally I'd go into building like a database. So that's where I actually started. I thought, how do we actually manage this?
So how did you approach balancing the film's tone and pacing?
I think the challenge was to take a quite complicated story, because in the podcast, it can be spread over a number of episodes. But we're making a single feature movie and we had so much time. So a lot of it was sort of paring one of the story arcs down into something that would be filmable. I don't know how many versions. I mean, there was 17 official versions of the script, and there's probably a load more before that even started. And right at the very end, we actually did a complete rewrite, went through everything and took out about 20 more pages. So we really pared it down. And then, you came in and so Alex defined all the shots.
Each page had to be broken down into multiple little bits.
In the end, we realized we would need something like 500 shots.
It would be impossible to memorize.
Yeah.
Every single one during the actual production, because there are so many things going on.
Yeah. And of course, not having made a movie, I had no real concept of what the real limitation was, which was the actors' availability, because we weren't paying people for this. When we were actually shooting it on a week-by-week basis, we had to flex a lot. Like someone would say, I've hurt my ankle, I can't come in this weekend. Inevitably, scenes involve more than one actor. So the problem is one thing affects other actors. So then you have to scramble around and try and find shots with the people can come in.
This is where the project management thing comes into place as well, I would say.
So there was a lot of ducking and diving, and the only way you could manage that and figure out things like for example, costume changes were a big issue, because you can't do one shot, then change, and then do the next shot, because it takes an hour to change the costume to do makeup. So what we would do is we'd kind of marshal everything with the same costume together. So it actually saved us. Well, I think it actually allowed us to do the film full stop. Without that, we wouldn't have been able to do it.
It would be very difficult.
Yeah.
Next to impossible, in fact.
Yeah, because
and that actually happened on multiple occasions.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like I was doing a lot of scrambling and you didn't even see behind the scenes, because on Monday, we'd do a shoot on a Sunday. On Monday, I'd think, right, okay, what are we doing next week? And I penciled that in a couple of weeks ahead. But then I'd check people's availability and find there was always an issue. And multiple times I'd printed stuff out on Monday and were all set to go. And ready. On Wednesday, I'd find out that someone, something had happened. They were ill, or they had to go to a family thing or something. It's like, oh no. And then so I'd have to go through and redo them all. It was crazy.
And how many times?
Oh, I would say 50% of the time we were scrambling.
But you had everything outlined at the start, so you could sort of rearrange, I would assume, yeah.
Alex had got more experience on doing shoots, so I think we worked quite well together, really, because I was more worried about, okay, what shots can we do? And then you were worried about, okay, how do I set up the lighting and cameras for these shots?
Yeah, do we have everything that we need on the day?
Did you work closely on that aspect to sort of be able to adjust and keep that cadence going so that you kept the project on track?
We did keep it going. I mean, that was the amazing thing. It took a year and a half to shoot, but there wasn't once where we actually stopped, was there? We always had something to do.
I think so, yeah.
I think one day we had only 6 shots. So that was a light day, but most of the time we were doing 12 shots, 14 shots a day.
So what was your visual concept?
Yeah, I had a concept of what I thought in my head it would look like.
Did it come from the artwork that was
vague? Yes.
The renders that were on the website?
Yeah, so it was kind of based on that. But then what happened is when we actually were going through, we realized some of the spaces we actually couldn't use. They were too small, physically too small. Some that just didn't look right. So I think I made about 2 or 3 changes to some of the locations, but most of them are good.
On the day, I would say 90% of the time, out of what we made in the shot list, we would actually need to change it on the day because we would quickly realize that because of spacing issues, we actually have to relocate characters. Yeah. And sometimes it would involve redoing the whole shot on the go.
Yes.
But well planned out, and it worked out in the end, obviously.
The actual mud map wasn't really useful because, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of times it just didn't work the way we planned originally because on the day they would set up the camera, look at everything, and either the lighting wouldn't work or the spacing just wouldn't look right on the camera. So looking at the space, I'd quickly close my eyes and think, so what does it look like? Okay, how can we redo it? Where is the lighting going to be? And then once I have this whole image projected in my head, I would try and replicate it in front of a green screen.
To get that continuity as well between different scenes.
Like we had a very limited space. We had probably 4 square meters, maybe. Yeah, about once you put the lights in the room, and
it was the biggest problem. Is the actual space limitations, because having all these lights, which would be in the shot, which would otherwise work for the space, but then you have a light that has to be in a particular place. Let's see, it's there, and we need to eliminate it. So we need to move the actors again. Then you have to explain to the actors, like, okay, so you're not standing there anymore, you're standing here. So just keep it in mind. And our actors did really well because it was really mentally difficult for them to actually see where they are because they're just in this green box.
Yeah, very challenging.
It was. It was also really exciting for me because I'd process the shots sort of Monday. Within a couple of days, I'd removed all of the green screen. And then once you put the actors against the background, it sort of comes alive. That was really exciting for me, like actually seeing it look like a real space. It was there, and I thought, God, that really looks real.
Yeah, well, so not only is everything shot out of sequence, but there's a green screen and nothing necessarily behind the actors. So everyone has to pull together and get their imagination on to really deliver it. Then when you see it when it's fully rendered, and you're like, wow, there it is.
The biggest problem we've had during actual production is the green screen spill.
Yes,
actors' faces.
Yeah.
And that's where the limitation was even worse because we might have had 4 square meters of space, but the actors could only use 2 meters because once they get closer to the green screen,
you get that spill.
You get that spill, and then when you put it in post-production, half the face would disappear.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very hard. I had to do a lot of magic masking. And then there was one character where we basically did everything wrong. Like we made her so she had big fuzzy sort of hair. And then we noticed after we'd actually been shooting with this costume for about a month, we noticed there were green sort of yellow shapes in her costume that kind of...
Which software would interpret as green and make it half invisible.
Yeah. So, a lot of it we could chroma key, but some of it we had to magic mask, which is another technique, and it's very slow. So it was probably, you're right, it was the biggest challenge, wasn't it? Just doing the masking and making it look real and right.
Because the space itself wasn't as small, but we could always use a small portion of it at a time.
Yeah.
And we had this lighting issue as well, which was kind of because initially we used coloured lights, didn't we? And then we moved away from that once we realised where it was unnecessary. We could do it all in post, like colorization.
Yeah, we didn't have to use heavily saturated lighting afterwards because, for one, there was less control in the editing software because once you have purple on their face, you can't really edit it out.
Yeah.
And also, if you use the light that's not as saturated, not only if you have more control in the editing software, but if you need to change the hue a little bit, it actually becomes possible.
Yes, and it kind of masks any green spill as well more effectively, I think.
So you tended to use neutral.
And also, it would be worth mentioning that the way we started filming and the way we finished filming, like all the way through. When did we start shooting? In May.
So long ago, I really can't remember.
Like in month one, our techniques were completely different to our last months of filming, which basically made us reshoot a lot of stuff as well.
Yeah, we did reshoot some stuff.
But we realized if we reshoot it, it will actually look better than what we've shot originally.
We managed to get through, though.
Yeah, so moving on to the cast. How did you choose the cast and what qualities?
Okay, so this is definitely an Alex question because she had more experience.
We were both involved, but I would say when it comes to casting, to me personally, the biggest thing is the way actor talks. Because when you envision a certain character, the first thing that you'll notice is the way they talk. So if you need a character that speaks slowly, you can't have an actor who speaks fast, as an example.
You're taking on their baseline qualities for...
See the way a person acts in real life and whether their way of talking and moving is actually matching to what we were thinking for the character.
Did you both have similar ideas then of what each character should be? Because obviously Mel being a writer and director.
Yeah, so we had ideas when we first started. I kind of could say they're roughly this age, but then, you've got to compromise because you just don't have a vast array of people we can select from.
Did you have disagreements about the casting or did you both work together?
I think we had some issues with the cast proving to be unreliable. So we cast some people and we did a read, and then it was clearly evident that they weren't that interested. So we had to do a massive readjustment quite early on.
And then one character, we actually shot a few scenes with her.
Yeah. So,
and do you have many actors from the radio show come into?
No, less than I thought, because the problem was that there's some very good actors that do the radio show. However, they were about 20 years too old.
So they're okay for radio, but they didn't make the film cast.
Only two that one were both willing to do it and actually were appropriate for the character. So yes, it was, the overlap wasn't as large as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Okay. And neither of the two leads are actually in the audio podcast, because the two leads we had in the podcast were much older in real life and couldn't really do the movie.
Were there any other qualities that you were looking for? You mentioned, the central character had to sort of match.
To me, this film was more of a personal adjustment, because normally with my films, I always write the script myself. Well, it was different with this film. So I actually had to use the original author's ideas of what the characters are, because she developed them.
Yeah.
And
I couldn't have done it without Alex's knowledge of the actors, because he's worked with quite a few people over the years, and we needed people that were going to be reliable because it was such a big project. There was a lot of worry that you'd get like a third of the way in and then someone would just say, no, I'm not going to do it. Well, it could kill the project. So I think reliability was really the most important thing. Like once they could do it, it was then, okay, are they reliable? Are they going to turn up on time?
There was a big level of stress.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Perhaps the biggest one, in fact.
I mean, we were very lucky in that if you look at the script and analyze it, 90% of the dialogue is two lead characters, because it's a detective series. So there's a lot of toing and froing between those people. And luckily, we managed to find people that, one, were willing to give up the time, but two, were very reliable. If they had been proven to be unreliable, I think I would have given up.
Apart from reliability, were there any other?
Well, obviously, their ability to remember lines
to act.
Yes, the credibility, whether they come across. And the interesting thing is, the characters we actually picked were different from what I'd envisaged in my head slightly. But actually, after filming for a while, you just can't remember that you had a different image. And
they develop a life of their own.
And then with Alex's other films, he knew who would do the roles. So actually, between us, I think we managed to pull it together, which was actually one of the biggest challenges of the whole getting the project off the ground. Really, it wasn't the technical aspects. I mean, they were interesting, but the people. If you can't have reliable people that are willing to give their time and turn up, then you're dead in the water. The project's never going to happen.
It sort of leads me on to my next question, which is what were, if any, of the major challenges during production?
What were your major challenges?
that really potentially would change the plan? We touched on this before, but...
Well, the way I saw it and the way we worked, it was like a jigsaw where we were basically trying to get as many pieces captured as quickly as possible.
Sure. But was there anything particular that stands out to you both? Think of something that's particularly significant.
Oh.
Because we had to film outside, we didn't really have any control of the lights. And when you don't have the control of the light, it makes the scene really difficult.
So outdoor shooting was challenging.
Yeah, wind. Do you remember that day when we had the green screen was flapping in the wind? Yeah. It was challenging.
Did anything occur that really made you have to change?
There were no disasters, but sometimes, I'm pretty sure it had happened a couple of times when on the day we would find out someone cannot make it.
And there were things that we never thought would work, but we just threw them in and they worked brilliantly. It was like that manhole thing. That just worked. It was like, I didn't think it was going to work. It was amazing.
I think we only just did it as an experiment, really.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you describe your collaboration with the cinematographer and production?
From my experience in all productions, I've always had some kind of clashes with my producers. It's just part of life. And at the end of the day, you just have to compromise, because sometimes what director does and what producer does it clashes. So both of them have to compromise, and if they won't, it's just not going to be.
It was probably harder for you because I'd done so much of the definition of the movie, because I had the 3D models and I kind of knew them because I'd worked with them on the computer so much. I kind of knew them more than you did.
Sometimes I had to. I did most of the cinematography, and sometimes, in fact, not sometimes, most of the times I would say I would have to consult to Mel and say, okay, I see what's in the shot on the laptop.
Yeah.
Can you describe the space for me a bit better?
Yeah. And sometimes I'd get confused. Like you have to realize, like you got to, because it's hardest when we were rotating things because we couldn't have the lights in. So we had to literally do a sort of 90-degree rotation, and then you get confused. Is it left or is it right?
Yeah, I would have to check with Mel. Where is this particular entrance?
Yes.
Is that on the right or left?
Yeah.
And did the collaboration between you both get easier as the longer production went on? You would have...
Yeah.
I think we worked like one mechanism, but occasionally there were confusing bits. But still, I would say it would only take a couple of minutes to figure out.
Yeah, I think that what helped us was a lot of it was we had a lot of planning. So we knew what shots we were doing. We knew that, and we had a system where we could print out the dialogue for the actors just for those shots, so they weren't being overwhelmed with the long script. And they would be practicing the shot we were about to shoot while we're doing the setup. And then we'd come in, and I mean, there were days when it dragged and we'd done a lot of takes, and you get to a point where you just think, when
you have like 15 shots, and then you realize that after takes, when you have 15 takes, and you realize that after take 10, it's only getting worse.
Yes, yeah. So there were a couple of times I think where we stopped. And then that shot would creep in maybe 6 months later, and it would just go like really smooth, It's like, so it was a bit of recycling, not too much.
Well, you'd keep the shot, but you might sort of flag it as...
Yeah, I kept every take, and the early ones where there's obvious fluffs, I'd delete those because just from brevity.
Would you have an agreement after a shot was done that you may go back and redo it?
Either in the email or throughout the week, we would catch up with Mel, and she'd say, look, this is what I think about the shot. I don't think it's really good. What do you think about it? And I would say that 100% of the times we actually agree.
We did agree. I think visually we're quite aligned.
We're on the same page.
I mean, we did a whole process of color grading together, because that was probably another. You say what was the most challenging? I think the color grading was pretty at the end. Yeah, it was very difficult to get it,
especially with those challenging scenes in the sun. Because matching up those ones was.
Matching the color gradient with the rest
there were at least two shots which were good shots, but we just couldn't use them because the you just could tell in the movie that, there was too much of a change.
Actually sort of leads me into the next question about post-production. How did post-production shape the final version of the film?
Well, Alex started doing the processing. We kind of quickly realized you work in Adobe world. I work in like Resolve world, with DaVinci. And just the file sizes and carrying them backwards and forwards is a pain. We're not like on a network or something. So it's all done with USB sticks.
Did you both do a lot of time editing together, or
editing software backgrounds?
Yeah.
And so in the end, we just decided that it's not really, what's the word, feasible?
Yeah, it was just it was adding more work than it was actually saving.
Who did most of the editing and post-production?
Well, the problem is, Mark, that we'd shoot a shot and we'd plan it all and shoot it. And then what would happen is you realize that the rendered background didn't quite match where we'd photographed it from in the real world. So then I'd have to go back in that week and re-render the backdrops to match the reality. And Alex didn't have the software. Even if he'd taken out the shots from the green screens, it would still mean that I'd have to do a lot of work. So it's easier just to keep it all in the same box. And I would sort of look at the background, and maybe on some of them I had to do 11 different goes to get the backdrop to be exactly the right perspective and parallax and look real.
Which takes a lot of time.
It's hard. Well. It's hard to do. And what made it worse was I kind of decided that it makes it come alive if the background actually has some moving things. That meant you had to re-render not just 1, but 200 or 300 frames, which can take overnight render. So there's a lot more to it.
But was there a particular scene that you can remember was extremely difficult to get right?
Yeah, the corridor scene. That was hard, wasn't it?
One that sort of stands out as, was it from the computing rendering side, or was it
continuity?
Continuity,
like they were walking through this corridor and where the doors were and stuff. It was confusing, wasn't it? It was hard to shoot.
Yeah, some of the corridor scenes were the girls playing the lead character. They were walking in front of lights at the time of filming.
Yeah.
And
oh yeah,
actually some of them worked out really well.
Well, that was by accident. Yeah, it was, and it was like we had to magic mask those ones, and I actually had to manually airbrush some of them. It was a labour of love. I think that's the only way to describe it. For labour and hate, it started to become a labour of hate.
It started to become a bit painful too.
Especially the early shots. Actually, it was the ones when we had those lights with this. We put the tin foil over.
Yeah.
Oh my God, they were a nightmare.
Well, let's now look at changing tack a little bit, looking at what's the message of the film, if we look at it from the audience's perspective.
Let's be clear about it. It's a sort of light comedy. I would like the people to love the characters. That's what's important to me. I mean, the story...
Well, they already have a following.
They do. Yeah, they have. Like we've got the podcast and it's had 17,000 listens.
Exactly.
So it's not... the story is relatively simple. It's a kidnap, sort of go in and rescue. And the reason we picked that particular story, actually, it was deliberate, was that we thought, well, with the computer-based backgrounds, we could, and the fact that it looks slightly unreal, it sort of plays into that to a certain extent. So it doesn't matter, once they're inside the mirror maze, we can do more fantastical backgrounds, which we did. And we can have more special effects. So we thought that would be fun. So the story is relatively simple. It's like they rescue someone, they get a reward, and they get their it's all building up to them getting their detective agency, which hopefully will lead on to more storytelling, right? So this is a simple story, but it sets the stage for some more complicated stories later on if we do follow up. So what did you feel? Did you end up liking the characters? Did you?
They certainly got more intimate with me towards the end of filming. I feel not just with the characters, but with the actors as well. Because I knew our lead actors from the previous films, but we only worked briefly. Because all my previous projects were much simpler. Because I'm doing horror, and it normally doesn't involve any green screen usage. And so it was filmed much faster, while this project's taking us over a year.
Yeah.
And we've gotten really intimate. So
I'd like to think I think the atmosphere on set was pretty light, pretty good. There were a couple of heavy moments, but I mean, in a year, we actually filmed for a year and a half, actually. It was more than a year.
Unlike a lot of projects that I was a part of, this one really became like a family thing.
Right.
It was just because of a pure timing.
For the extended amount of time that you're involved.
Oh, that's lovely.
How do you feel that it fits in with your broader body of work? It's very, very different. You mentioned the green screen.
It actually doesn't fit
the length of
into-
time it's taken.
It actually doesn't fit into anything that I've done in the past because I was always a horror-only director. But I thought I might do something colorful for a change, because most of my films were more dark and gray in their feel.
Yeah.
And I thought this might be something that's going to be a bit of like a breath of fresh air, I would say.
So
Anyway.
quite different is the answer.
So it doesn't really fit in in the sense that it's a legacy of my previous projects. It's actually something completely different.
And Mel, this is your first feature film.
I learned hell of a lot from you, actually, like just watching you, the camera, and I learned a lot about editing. I'd use Resolve, but only to do a few like simple music video stuff. This was really using it pretty heavy. A lot of the masking stuff, I really got into that. So it's like most things, as you use it, you learn. Just
Which certainly adds on to music production.
And even just doing the sound. I mean, I had a pretty firm base because really it was very similar to what we've been doing with Angel and May, but there's a lot of differences. Like this was mixed in 5.1.
Yeah.
Okay, so I had to learn how the surround sound stuff works.
Yeah, exactly.
So and then there was a whole exercise of doing the ADR, which was we thought at first we could use the on-set recorded sound, and there's AI tools that you can use to clean it up, and they're remarkable. They do clean it up quite a lot. But it still sounds boxy and it doesn't sound cinematic. Yeah. And so I sort of took the difficult decision, like, oh my God, we've got another month plus re-recording all of the actors.
All of the voiceover.
All of the voices. And so that was like, but it was well worth it.
It was worth it in the end.
I think so, because one of the comments we got from the distributor was the sound is great for an independent movie. It sounds Hollywood, Yeah, so that's really good feedback.
It was also new to a lot of actors because they've never done anything like it.
Yeah. So
it does fit in with your broader body of work.
It does,
really.
yeah. And in fact, you could easily release just the soundtrack as on the podcast, actually, as just another sort of extension of the universe. I'm proud of what we've achieved because the limitations of what we could do were quite large. Like we couldn't move the camera. Because we couldn't do that in the virtual world and then match them up. We also had a very limited small space under a house. We had to make it look like a big universe. And the other thing was we couldn't really have people populating the world. If there's one criticism of the movie is there's characters, but then there's not many other people around. But we just couldn't do that. Like we didn't have a big soundstage. We couldn't have extras. We couldn't have like large sets. But we managed to actually shoot a feature-length movie, and it doesn't look terrible under a house, for virtually no money
on a very small stage.
And it kind of worked.
So what's next for both of you?
I think it depends how it goes. Is this going to be successful? If it is, and people like it, then I'm up for making another one.
And what about you, Alex?
Well,
back to horror or?
Back to horror for my next film.
Yeah.
But like Mel said, we have to see how this one goes before making any further decisions.
Would you go back to green screen?
Lately, I've moved into creating found footage. We'll just have to see how everything
I think there's more interaction with the actual physical background in your movies, so it'd be hard to do it green screen.
Yeah.
Because you can't really, you can do certain elements, but there's a lot of opening and closing and doors and running around.
Yeah. Also with found footage because it's handheld most of the time. Green screen, I mean, technically could do it.
Yeah, that would be hard.
Yeah, but I'm still impressed the way we managed to have this crowded shot in Mirror Maze.
Oh, yeah.
Because everyone was filmed separately. But we managed to have
we composited that together. That was a bit of a nightmare, but it worked.
The protest scene? Or?
Yeah, the protest scene.
I think I remember that one. It looked a lot
better than because you're in the background.
I might be in the background.
Yes, yeah. You're unrecognisable, Omar.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I think it's funny that
incognito.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny the things we managed to get to work. I think the weaknesses are the general special effects, like pyrotechnics. Like we couldn't do that, obviously, so they're faked in, and they don't look super real. They look a bit cheesy. Yeah, there was lots of limitations. We couldn't really have piles of blood because we couldn't afford to buy the blood to spray over the characters, and then the mess it would make. And
well, we'll have to see what
happens.
See what happens in the future. But thank you both very much for coming in and having a chat about the exciting new production Mirror Maze.